So, have you ever wondered why God treasures character so much? From your character flows your belief system. All the fruit, all your actions, and all your deeds flow from what you really truly believe about yourself and about life and others. That's how you treat others, is what you believe about them. People treat celebrities like little mini gods because what they believe about them is that they're very valuable, so they treat them as such. And then go down the list with different people, homeless people. They treat them the way they treat them according to how they view them, according to their belief system. I made a video earlier today about something similar to what I'm talking about here, but this is the direction I was going to make that video originally, and then Holy Spirit took me in a different direction. And I was going back and forth whether or not I should have uploaded it, but you just never know who needs to hear what, so I uploaded it because in the end of the day, it's truth. Anything that is true has a foundation for change for somebody. It has transformative power. But I want to talk to you guys about character. It's so important that we understand the fruit, and everything bears fruit, and the significance of why God says to do certain things is tied to your identity. And so when he says, walk in the light as I am in the light, be holy as I am holy. And there's a verse, you know how there's a famous saying, I'm not perfect. You know how that, there's a famous saying there? Everybody uses that line. I'm not perfect, but you know this. I'm not perfect, but you know that. Did you know that there's a Bible verse that says, be ye perfect just as your Father in heaven is perfect? It's a Bible verse. I just find that to be like a little comical when I hear that line over and over again and stuff like that. Because they usually, when they really step on doodle, they love bringing up that line of, I'm not perfect. You know, I just killed your dog outside right now. Isn't it funny? But anyways, I got off track. So character and fruit. And the reason, the significance behind everything is because everything is tied to your core belief system and your identity and what you truly develop. So think of your life as, say this steering wheel that I'm driving the car right now and I'm maneuvering. So say the steering wheel, and every choice and decision that I make, and every time I make a right or a left turn, say that's tied to how I view everything, and my belief system is stored through how I view stuff. So if I view stuff from a pessimistic point of view or an optimistic point of view, then I'm going to make lefts and right turns accordingly. If I view things from a reserved standpoint, or if you want to go political with it, conservative standpoint or a liberal standpoint, I'm going to make lefts and right turns accordingly. That's what we're talking about in this video. The significance of the inner operation that's taking place at the core of your being. I find it to be a great, significant, important thing to state that we can change things about ourselves, such as drug addictions, alcoholism, thinking patterns. We can change things about ourselves that are very ugly, things that we've been doing for many years, because it's tied to that mechanism that I'm referring to on the inside, that inner core belief system. You start believing different. That's the significance of renewing your mind. Start to renew your mind, tell yourself a different story, start singing a different tune, different song, one that's not mopey and sad, but you start to rejoice and look at things from a different perspective. And now that new perspective of looking at everything, your circumstances haven't changed, but as long as you were looking at your circumstances from that angle, you're getting those results. Change your angle, you'll change your results. So like, for example, some people look at challenges, some people look at hardship as food. I made a video about this. They look at that and they eat it. And they're like, oh man, this is gonna get me better, man. I love it. Give me more, right? And then there's this like, I thrive off of this, right? They just psych themselves up. You know, they're looking at it from another angle. They're saying, you know what, I know what that yields, and I don't want that fruit. If I start looking at things from I'm a victim mentality, and things are always happening to me, I know where that leads. So they're a little bit on a higher platform. They're looking at things from a higher perspective and saying, you know what, I don't want to live that type of life. The type of life that I want to live is like a warrior type of life. Have you ever thought about this, like how a warrior, the deeper you go in hardships, think about going deep, where the deeper you go, the more hard stuff becomes. You know how they say, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. The deeper you go, the hotter and the harder it gets. But what if you can become that resilient? Can't you just, one of the easiest things to do in life is to have fun, live in a pleasure zone, deal with comfortability, have conversations with people about nothing. Right? This is what a lot of people, this is their natural current of events of where they're at. But when stuff hits the fan, they don't know what to do with themselves because they don't have deep roots. So when they find themselves in a chaotic type of world, the people with the deepest roots are the people that survive and thrive. And it's just that simple. So that's an angle to look at it from. We just rewired some belief systems. When you purchase that, of what I just said, you're doing business. You just purchase something. You're gonna now implement into your core belief system that the deeper you go, the harder things are. You're becoming a giant on the land, so to speak. One that is multifaceted. Have you ever seen those multi-tools that they have everything. A little screwdriver, a little nail clipper, a little scissor, a little this, a little that, a little knife. It has everything. Well, the deeper you go, the more you become resilient. You know, Apostle Paul put it to us like this: I know what it's like to abound, and I know what it's like to lack. I know what it's like to be on top, and I know what it's like to be on the bottom. And then he finished it off with saying, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. You know, I just believe that in this life, you know, whether you're in a prison cell, being persecuted for your faith, going to the cross, being stoned, shipwrecked, or whether you're sitting at the palace with a king and eating grapes, and him telling you stories of how he's going to promote you as his right hand in power. Doesn't matter. You're prepared for all things. But the easier thing is to be at the king's table. Because, hey, there's air conditioner, there's food, everything's being supplied. But if you can master your emotions, feelings, your mind, self-control, and not lose it under hardships, you can control yourself and navigate by way of all of these conflicts and how to deal with it accordingly. And everything else under the sky that throws at you, you're going to be able to handle it. And you're going to be very special on this land, set apart, unique, and full of quality. And that is what I feel God does with us as Christians. He throws us through a series of tests, trials, tribulations to show us, like, you're gonna live in paradise. You got yourself a mansion. You got all this. But I want you to be humble at the same time. I want you to live in humility at the same time. I want you, right? You're both a king, because he calls you royal priesthood, a holy nation, a purchased people. But then the apostle said, I'm a slave of Christ. So you're all the way at the top, and you know what it's like to be at the bottom too. Scoffed and mocked and rejected by society, yet valued and esteemed, chosen and elected by God. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. You know, it's one of those things, man. So I just believe that the deeper you go into the places where nobody wants to go, if you can really withstand that type of pressure, so to speak, you can look at the scenery and not allow it to affect you as it affects everybody, where they just can't hack it. They can't. Because they lose hope, they lose faith. They think this is the end. They don't think, oh, this is a season. This is forming me, shaping me, molding me. And whatever story you tell yourself about that, it's basically to get you through. I remember a homeless woman, this is a true story. It was a homeless woman that she lived under the bridge, and she had her clothes up on like little hangers, and she had created a little tent and all this other stuff. And so she was visited by a guy with a camera, and the guy with the camera was doing a documentary. He wanted to know about her life, etc. And so she said her life, and then somewhere along the way of telling her story, she started to talk about how the story she tells herself is that she's not homeless, and this is her coping mechanism so that she won't just freak out and lose it, because she can't. Her life is so hard that she has to kind of like, she wasn't born homeless, she had a house her whole life, and now she finds herself in a place where she's homeless now. And it breaks the brain. How am I here? Like, how did this happen to me? So it's hard. And so I remember her story. She said, and she tells herself a story. Anything to get you through, anything to get you to the other side. It's irrelevant the story you say, as long as it gets you to where you need to be. So the story she told herself is that she's in this place in terms of homeless, but she's not here permanently. She's here temporarily, and that she has friends and family waiting, and that she's going to be set up fairly quick with a house, and that it's all turning around. And then she had set apart some stuff in case she had guests over. She's homeless under a bridge, and she had set apart some stuff. She's like, you know what, when they come visit me, I have this to share with them, and this and that. We're going to talk about certain things. And that story fed her hope and faith and put a smile on her face that it wasn't over, and that she didn't have to give in to the reality that she found herself in the middle of. And that story gave her hope. My story, for example, I remember when because a lot of you understand my testimony, right? God scooped me up from hell. I lived a reckless, horrible life, drugs and alcohol for many years, and I did habitually sins every day of my life, and I hurt a lot of people, including myself, and I did a lot of reckless things. I hated myself on the inside, and had a lot of enemies and all this. And so then at nighttime, I was always visited by demons that would just torment me and torture me all day, every day. So much so that I slept 17 hours a day, every day. A lot of you know my testimony. But when things got really, really bad, PTSD type of bad, you know, when I was seeing hell, the chambers of hell, when I was seeing myself get, man, I kid you not, it's all very real. Outer darkness, demons, just whooping on me, and all of this. It came to be too much for me to bear. It just was. It was too much. And my brain created by itself. It was almost like, you know what, I'm going to create this alternative reality for myself. And in this alternative reality, there is no pain, there is no sorrow, there is no torment, there is no darkness. This alternative reality is as close to Disneyland as you can get, so to speak. This was when I was at my all-time worst. I created this fantasy land, La La Land, that didn't exist, and I disassociated with myself. That's actually a term in psychology, I later on found out. And I disassociated with my own self. I left. It was too much for me to bear. I checked out because it was just so much. And in this land, there was no pain, there was no sorrow, there was no torment. And in that place, I wasn't being beat on by demons day and night. And I wasn't shackled, I wasn't in prison, right? And all this stuff. So, I did that. And that lasted years. And then later on, I got to a place where I was seeing Joel Osteen on television, and basically it was like little seeds of hope that was being thrown at me as a reflection of salvation and what Jesus could do for me. And I took on to that, and little by little God reeled me in through the cable man and through others, and sowed into me. And yeah, man, it's a beautiful story of from hell to heaven, redemption, and how it's capable, how God's not a respecter of persons, and how anybody can have their name put in on the slot of salvation. Anybody, if they just so choose. If they just choose. But Jesus saved me when I really meant it from my heart. And then after that, I meant it with my actions in real life, where when he gave me an opportunity to be free, I stayed free by way of my actions. I stayed away from, these places where I knew what could take me down. And the devil tried so many different ways. I always make spiritual warfare videos of how the devil goes fishing with different lures, different temptations, different ways, right? Often hitting and targeting your identity, since he knows that you don't know who you are. He'll target your identity. One of the things that the devil does is that as you're walking with Jesus, he'll try to make you feel or think that you're on his side, and then he puts his arm around your shoulder almost like you're buddies, and he wants to know if you reject him. He wants to know if you'll go against him. He wants to know if you will resist him, as the Bible says. Submit to God, resist the devil, and he will flee. He wants to know. So, anyways, so much to say, guys. I got off off track here, but I just wanted to say that the devil has a lot of different lures, and he has a lot of different temptations and stuff like that. But in the end, stick with Jesus. It really is that simple. Don't leave his side for anything. It doesn't matter what your circumstances look like. Jesus, if your circumstances are bad, Jesus is not finished. He's not done with your story. Just keep going until you start seeing things turn around for your good. So stick with Jesus, and keep doing what's right. One small yes at a time. One small decision that leads to life at a time. It's a good way of putting it, because that's measurable and that's doable. But when you look at things from a vast scope, you can get overwhelmed and you can think I'm not good enough and this and that. But when you look at it like, your sole job is to follow Jesus. It's your sole mission here. Follow Jesus. That's doable. So, let's do this. Let's do this together. God put us as a family to help one another, so you're not alone. And, yeah, there's a whole lot of help out there for you. So don't give up. God bless you.